I mean, I remember I used to listen to Chris Lorenzo's bass sounds and I'd be like, how he's made that bass sound, and it would torment me. I have probably used the same lead synth sound in every track that I've released in the last 4 or 5 years. But then it becomes a signature of mine, I am always like thinking, I want to play something by a transo. I'm just looking for more diverse music all the time. This is warm-up DJ. You're not necessarily the one that anyone wants to speak to in the room. Like a lot of, for me personally, my access into being good at social media was relearning what my face looked like without makeup on. Because sometimes as an artist, when you're not getting feedback, you never know if it's going to get supported or not.
So welcome to another episode of the Artist Breakthrough podcast, where we bring you some of the world's finest artists, industry players and breakthrough artists to share their story, their wisdom, their tips to help you with your careers. And today I'm joined with a very special guest, award-winning artist, lau.ra, producer, DJ, songwriter, the whole artist package, and also the first woman to win the Music Producers Guild Self-Producing Award. Her sound has been taken her from some of the underground clubs to some of the biggest festival stages as well. So welcome. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure. Absolute pleasure. So let's get started and go straight in. And to people that might not know you watching the podcast, how would you introduce yourself right now as an artist? Because you've had quite a varied career, which we'll dive into across some different artistic projects. But as lau.ra, how would you introduce yourself now?
Sure. My lau.ra project is basically, it's all about bass-driven dance music, mostly house music, but let's say licks of garage and stuff in there. But it's bass heavy dance music and just fun, with a lot of kind of just stuff to make you move and with a bit of joy in it. It doesn't take itself too seriously. And that's really what my lau.ra project is about. But say alongside that, I do vocals for other people. I've done vocals in progressive house and vocals in kind of garage and like all over the place really.
Yeah, we'll get stuck into that because I love the varied career that you've had, and you've gone right across some different sort of forms as an artist as well, like different aliases, and obviously a big part of it was Ultrista, is that how you pronounce it?
Ultrista,
as an actual band, right? And that was a huge project and had some amazing collaborations and remixes as well back in the day. I was listening to some of the tracks from there. I mean, that's been amazing. And also you had the solo project Femme as well.
My pop project,
so, you've had a really quite long and established career within music, like as an artist, like just grinding, doing things yourself. Like, has that really shaped how you've become lau.ra today? Like where you've been in the past, do you feel that's played a major part? Yeah,
absolutely. All of those experiences along the way, 100%. I mean, I think the thing for me that I've realized, I mean, even since I was a teenager, is just I really like making stuff. I love making music, but it could equally be, I love making videos, I love making photos, especially for my old pop project Femme, I would be making all the music videos and all the artwork and all the photo shoots we just do ourselves. And there was a real joy to making a pop project, but very DIY behind the scenes. It's just me and all my mates. I was a student at the time at Goldsmiths in South London. So it was just me and the friends that I had around me that were doing creative stuff themselves. Some of them were fashion designers, some of them were photographers, some of them were making videos, and we were all just studying and we had some time on our hands. And so it was like a real fun time of just grabbing people to help you realize a vision. I think that really helped set up my handle on world building when it comes to then presenting yourself in whatever project. Say make dance music now, but you still have to create a world around it to present online, so it becomes so important.
That's amazing because you are super creative, not just the sort of varied forms you have as an artist, but I mean I've even seen through your social media of things you get stuck into at home in the house and stuff that. It's interesting. You get a real interest as someone who watches and follows it. It sounds like you're a real sort of doer, especially in those early days of getting stuck right in from the sort of DIY form as an artist, having to do stuff yourself.
100%. And I think from the very beginnings of my music career, I've been very aware of, I've had big ambitions, but also very aware of my limitations in terms of, say, budget or funding or whatever. So it's just finding ways of making things a reality around you, and keeping overheads low so you can make it a professional career. And I've been lucky to be able to say that I've been a professional artist in whatever form since I was 23 years old. You know, that's 15 years in the music industry. I've not had another job, which is incredible because it's not like anybody knows whom I am particularly. You know, I still have a niche fan base, but it's amazing that I've been able to make a living.
Do you still feel like that as like Laura? You're still like pushing through on that way?
Yeah.
Do you feel like you're in a place that feels comfortable now, or do you still have like tons of goals? I'm still going for it. We're still building.
Kind of in the middle, really. Like I'm really proud of a lot of the stuff that I have achieved to this day. And there was definitely a few years from like 2020. There was like some real momentum there, 2020 to kind of, you know, even to today. But like, I did a lot of big collaborations with like Chris Lake and Claptone and Sasha and Ben Boma and like loads of back-to-back really big collaborations. There was a lot of momentum there. And then it was like concentrating on releasing my own music as Lau.ra and without, you know, so many collaborations. And then I feel like I've had kids since then, you know, so that is a whole other world that then pulls into perspective like where your priorities are.
Yeah,
I mean, I love making music. I'm never going to stop making music. But am I like, I'm going to headline Glastonbury one day? No, probably that's not on my ambitions list now that I've had children. I'm like, you know, got everything a little bit. I don't know. We'll see.
I think you know, we were talking before, but I think you absolutely smash it. You're achieving so much, which we'll dive into a little bit more. But like coming to the start of Lau.ra, because obviously we're talking about like bands before and stuff like that. What was that moment when it was felt like that's that next step to sort of become like? Was this to you almost a sort of a reinvention and say, right, I'm becoming, without sounding cliche, like myself as an artist, as a solo female artist, as Lau.ra? Was it that real intention or move?
Yeah, I think so, because so basically Ultrista, which was the band, if people want to look it up, with Nigel Godrich, who's obviously Radiohead's producer, done amazing projects throughout his career, and then Joey Waronker, who's like one of the world's best drummers, really. And so it was us three, and I've never really been in bands growing up ever in school. So it's a whole different thing being in a band. There's a lot of compromise, and it's, you know, three different creative influences and personalities and everybody coming together to write songs together. And it's amazing. Like I couldn't have made the music we made as Ultrista without those two other people in the band. But equally, after that project had kind of wound down, I was like, I really wanted to just make music for myself, and just make all the creative decisions. And so that's actually why I started Femme off the back of that. You know, I wanted a silly kind of antidote to the quite serious indie kind of art rock music, or whatever you call it, synth music that we were making. So I made this pop project off the back of that as a kind of like, fuck you, I just want to go and like have a bit of fun for a while and not take this whole thing so seriously. And then as Femme kind of developed, you know, because like it's not like I've ever been signed to a major label or anything. It's always been independently released or on little independent labels. So you're always doing your own artist development, always as an artist. So I'm like, it kept on morphing. And then by the end of that project, I'd say around 2018, I was getting asked to do vocals on other people's work. So like I'd done a vocal on Fortet, one of the Fortet Ultrista remixes was being played everywhere. This is 2012. And I was kind of in the indie pop world, so I didn't really have an eye on what was happening in dance world. You know, we went out to clubs, we went out to Corsica Studios, but we never looked at who was playing. You know, there was, you know, we went out to clubs, but
just
it wasn't.
To enjoy it.
I did, but I wasn't really plugged into this DJ's playing this or anything like that. But I got wind that my voice was being played out in the clubs, and then I saw this is like the very beginnings of kind of, you know, smartphones that not as prevalent as they are now, even, you know, so you'd get a couple of grainy videos and it was like Sasha ending his set with this Fortet remix to like 5,000 people or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
you had to really be on it to find out what was going on and be out there.
And so it was just a different time in terms of like visual media, but I had an awareness that my voice was being played a lot. And so then I stepped into that world a little bit more, with a bit more intrigued. So I did some vocals for Sasha as on my own thing, and Justin Martin. I did the.
I mean, these names you're throwing around. This is epic. This is quite big, like a big deal. Doing vocals for Sasha and Justin Martin. That's super cool.
It was just nice for them because I think because they'd heard my voice on that Fortet remix being played out, then they would come to me to ask for it, you know. And that was my introduction really into dance music. And it was one Miami Music Week in 2018 that I went out. And I just hung out with Justin and Sasha, and they were playing sets out of backpacks. And like I was doing the opposite back in the UK, like rehearsing a band for like 2 months, spending all my money trying to get a tour, you know, on the
massive,
road,
isn't it, to make that work from a band perspective?
Yeah, and these guys, like Justin would be finishing a song in the airport and playing it that night, and I was like, that was like a light bulb moment for me. Like I can pinpoint that as the exact moment where I stepped as a producer into dance music. I was like, that's the same thrill that I get from you know, sitting in the studio and songwriting and blah blah blah. But it's like, but I could sit in a studio and make like a dance tune and play it the same night. I was like, that was like very exciting for me. So that was my first step in further as a producer into dance music.
That's really cool that you can sort of have that memory to pinpoint that sort of moment.
Yeah.
Do you like advise people watching this? Because what's really interesting is these changes that you've had, you've never really spoke about like fear or like worry of having to change, having to morph, having to evolve. You seem quite like comfortable with that, just going, yeah, I want to go for this and go for that. I feel like a lot of artists actually in the dance world can feel a bit restricted, feel a bit afraid to actually change, to reinvent themselves, I suppose, to speak. Yeah. You know, have you got any advice for that? Or is it just naturally that you feel comfortable of just going, I'm going to go there. I feel naturally to go there, you know?
I think because a lot of the time when I'm making music in the studio, it really is only like the track leads me entirely, you know, so it's not like I've listened to a John Summit tune and said, I want to make a tune like a John, you know, like, so like I feel like that can be quite restrictive sometimes for like people's creativity, you know, if you have a certain sound that you want to create, especially if you don't yet have the technical ability to maybe recreate that, you know, because when you're starting out, you're just starting out, you know. I listen to the tracks I made even 5 years ago, I'm like, it could have been a better, you know, it could have been mixed better.
Do that right though.
Yeah,
everyone looks back at older music and has something that they're like.
Because you always should be learning, and you always should be getting better, hopefully. And so I think like that's difficult. I think when you're first starting out, if you're like, I want to make tracks like Chris Dussy does or whatever, or Chris Lake even. I mean, he's one of the best dance music producers, you know, ever. But it's quite hard. I mean, I remember I used to listen to Chris Lorenzo's bass sounds and I'd be like, how he's made that bass sound, you know, and it would torment me.
I can totally understand that with your sound and that bass vibe.
Yeah, and I'd work on my tracks and then I'd play a Chris Lorenzo tune and I'd be like, no, it's like so much better. And the mixes are so much, they cut through sound systems so well with the low end, but then with so much clarity. Him and Chris Lake, and I was sitting and listening, I'm like, I don't know how to get there, and then slowly you do get there. You know, you just get better, and you just practice.
So do you think like one thing is having that sort of acceptance of realizing that
it's a process?
It's a process. It takes time, because I think a lot of people do come into it sometimes where the passion and the want is so strong, which is great. That love for it, and it can overrule, can't it? The actual realization of try and enjoy the process. Because I've had a few people sit here that have said that. I think Mark Knight said that himself. Like I was saying, is there one thing you can look back that you changed? And he said, enjoying some of that process more than constantly feeling that, you know, it's good to feel and push to climb to the next thing. But it's an interesting one. What you were talking about there, I find that such an interesting thing, because obviously we teach within the Tournament Academy, the courses, and trying to get that balance to teach of like going, let your creativity run, but at the same time, learn how to actually do it, use the equipment, and at the same time, try and have somewhere where you focus to build that skill set. It's getting that balance. But it's really interesting hearing you saying how you're quite driven, like more creatively, like within the track, as opposed to going at the starting process, I want to go there. Is that how it is for you? Like,
definitely.
Do you sit down, you don't necessarily have, because I'd imagine, you know, juggling things, young children, that you'd probably almost want a really tight structure. Yeah. Like, that's my studio day, that's that. But do you go in and just go, well, let's just see where I'm at, what's jamming?
I mean, I think now, probably the first thing that really clarified and made my studio sessions much more productive was the first time I had a song that really kind of cut through. And that was a song called Sideways, and it got like playlisted on BBC Six Music of all places, but like it was a song called Sideways featuring an artist called Cicana, and it was weird, and it was like kind of Mr. Wazzo inspired, you know, but it was like in terms of the bass sound, but it was slow now compared to the music I'm making. It was like 115 BPM or something, you know, but because it had a bit of success, it kind of gave me a template to work from. you know, because I was like, oh, you know, it had a very unique sound. It sat in its own very unique sound world. But because suddenly I was like, oh, people like this, it was like, okay, I'm going to continue experimenting with these sounds. So that really helped put me on the map, because otherwise, without some validation from the industry or it's like you can just mess up, especially now with the amount of samples and sounds that you have access to, you can go all over the place.
And a bit of direction can go a long way, you know, of just knowing you're in the right way.
Exactly, and that did help me. And then
now, how you're writing now, do you tend to go in with really specific intention, or is it more creatively led?
I guess it's a bit of both, but I'm a big believer in producers having sonic identities, which is usually repeating the same sounds that you've used many times, like Sammy Vergy, for example. You know, I can like as soon as you hear a Sammy Vergy beat, the drums are the same in every single track, but they're fantastic drums. You know, I'm not knocking that whatsoever. But you can hear him and Oppie Dan. You can hear an Oppie Dan tune from miles away because you're like, oh, that's an Oppie Dan production. You know, even if you never heard it before. So
that's interesting you say that. I think more new producers should think about that and accept that a bit more, that you don't have to reinvent the wheel.
Hell no.
Every single
not if you
time
found
you
something
make
great
music.
that works. I mean, I have probably used the same lead synth sound, like a wobbly kind of synth sound in every track that I've released in the last 4 or 5 years. But then it becomes a signature of mine, you know, and people are like, oh, I knew that was, you know, they hear it on the radio and they're like, I knew that was your tune before I even knew you'd released it.
I had some established producers I had a chat with years ago, and they were like, we've used the same kick drum in our last 20 tracks.
Yeah, wicked. If it works, it works.
I was like, yeah, I suppose, because you've probably not got that many other DJs that are going to play like 2 or 3 of your records in a row in a set.
No.
Would even notice that.
No, exactly,
So it's, exactly. Yeah. If it works, it works. Let's talk about the Music Producers Guild Award. I mentioned it at the start of the intro, because that's quite a big deal.
Yeah, it was.
It's a massive thing. Like, honestly, like when was that you received that?
That was, I think I won it in 2022. Am I making that up? I think it was 2022.
Okay, so not that long ago.
Yeah, and
so it's huge nominees up for this.
Yeah, so it was previously won by John Hopkins and Forte, and you know, but no woman had ever won it. I was told. So that was a nice moment.
That's a huge moment. Yeah, a huge moment for you and other female artists.
Yeah,
right?
I hope so. Yeah, and since then, I think there's been a few other women won it, so that was really nice.
Did it feel like a surprise when you won it? Was it a moment of like, I wasn't expecting that?
Yeah, it was a surprise because I'd had my son that same year, early in that year. So I was you know what it's like, if you know, that first year of having a baby, first baby as well, first year, you're just like in this fog of just figuring out, you know, just putting one foot in front of the other. You're not really back in the room yet as such.
Yeah,
and then
describe it.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was my first night away from him. I can't remember how old he was. He was probably like coming up a year old. And it was like, I was kind of trying to enjoy the awards show ceremony, obviously, but it's like also you're like a mum, your first night away from your baby, like you're constantly you got half your brain is somewhere else. But it was a really nice thing to, like, it's nice to be nominated by peers and be kind of awarded something like that from your peers,
definitely.
You know, with like, say, with the mix engineers and mastering engineers, and be like, get a little nod for you know, the quality of the work.
Because that specific award is for self-producing artists, so it's looking at artists that literally are doing everything themselves. Right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so that was great. I mean, and that is like absolutely what I'm about. I always have been, ever since I was stepped into production as a kind of frustrated vocalist, you know, because I was a vocalist before I ever started messing around with DAWs or software or anything. And it was from my frustrations of being sat in songwriting sessions with other producers and not really getting the results that I wanted, that I realized I had to start recording myself, you know. So I'm hoping, and I'm sure that a lot of other people, vocalists and women especially, find themselves in a similar situation now in the industry. So hopefully if I can kind of inspire them a little bit with my journey.
Definitely. Do you feel like that might have been a shift? Did you notice it as a shift once you won that award? Like, did you feel people noticing you more, taking you more seriously? Yeah,
not necessarily the award, but I think actually as soon as I stepped into dance music, making more instrumental music and more dance floor focused music, everybody like was so much more supportive of me as a producer. Yeah, like noticeably so, rather than. And it's kind of one of the reasons why I stopped putting my voice on my own tracks, because as soon as I sing on or vocal something, it's lau.ra the vocalist, you know, and actually, even though I'm making the track, that doesn't tend to get a mention, you know. It's then all the focus is on me as a vocalist.
That's interesting. Has that been something like that you've sort of had to, what's the word, not battle, but that's something that you've experienced a lot?
And it's hard to get your head around sometimes, because some of my most successful tracks are me as a vocalist. You know, like we have this Odessa collaboration. This is for their album that they made as Bronson, and it's
really
it's
good,
called
that
a track called Heart Attack, and it's, you know, went gold, and it's had like 100 million streamed, like you know, on Spotify or whatever. It's been very, very successful, but it is absolutely me as a vocalist. But then as soon as I put that voice on my own tracks, it doesn't tend to work anyway. I just get scared. I bottle it anyway.
Yeah. Well, you have done a vocal on a recent track,
yes,
haven't you?
But
We'll
it
come
doesn't
to that. We'll come to that. But that is different.
Yeah.
That is really, really different. That's wicked. So before we continue, if you're watching this podcast, you're probably a dance music producer trying to break through. And that's exactly why we created the Toolroom Academy Production Certificate course. It's an online program that certainly changed the game in house music education. Over 3 months, we write a track together to a professional level. You receive professional A&R feedback and technical feedback along the way every single week. And you'll join a really supportive, genuine community of like-minded producers as well. Our students have gone on to get signed to labels like Toolroom, Armada, Spinning, Nervous, Solid Grooves. They've started DJing in boiler rooms and touring internationally. If that sounds like the next step for you, check out toolroomacademy.com for more info. Do you think the production world in general, and that's a big question, but do you think it's becoming more inclusive? Do you think there's still a really long way to go?
I think there are more and more people experimenting with production, you know, so there are more women making music, there are more non-binary minorities making music. One of my big frustrations with the electronic and especially the DJ world in particular, I don't know if those tracks get as supported a lot of the time. You know, they're out there and they might get industry kind of nods, but actually in terms of the wider DJ community, the people that are out playing every weekend, I do feel like a lot of people aren't putting in the homework to seek music made by women or trans people or not minorities. And it has to be an active, you do have to seek it. You know, you have to actively have, like, if you want to have a more diverse electronic music scene, you do have to put in the homework and look for those producers that are making those tracks and give them a shot on your sets. And when I say plan, or I don't plan my sets so much, but prep a set, I am always like thinking, oh, I want to play something by, you know, a trans artist. I'm just looking for more diverse music all the time. And I think the people I have around me as well, they send me, you know, I'm kind of in touch with the queer scene and also the kind of the more your traditional kind of white men that are making tech house scene. You know, I'm kind of all over the shop really. So I get sent a lot of varied music, but I do feel that there's some corners of the scene which tend to be the very successful ones that just have their lane. And
so there's space for some new initiatives maybe, and things that could actually really help do a spotlight on that.
And I don't think it's necessarily, say, the massive DJs at the top who tend to be white and male. I don't think they're like not playing music by women deliberately. I just think it's not reaching them somehow, or it's not on their radar somehow, you know, because there is so much great music out there. And I do feel like there could be a big sea change of progress if some people at the top.
I think that's really interesting. There's something to think about there in terms of initiative, whether it's chart specific, more promo list, something that really actually does raise a spotlight on that. Because it's crazy when you think about it now. If you think going back, you know, and it's not that there's any specific blame to one area, but if you think about how disproportionate it was, even at like quite high level radio within the dance music world. And it's great that, you know, there's so much more focus is put on making this a much more inclusive space now. But if you actually go back and compare, there's a huge difference to now, isn't it?
Yeah, totally.
So there's definitely been a shift.
Yeah, 100%. Progress is definitely being made. And I think and I think it's cutting through online and it's cutting through on radio. But it's like, are people getting played at the weekend, you know, in a club in Norwich? Probably not. No. You know,
that's a lot of what really counts. You know, it's as a label, we're sort of really trying to look into that a little bit more. Initiatives of actually, you know, what the music's actually getting played, because that's kind of what counts and can make a really big shift within the industry,
people, right?
Yeah, totally.
Creates fan bases,
and a big part of it, which so many artists don't realise, is there's actually revenue there as well. When your music's actually being played, if it's being registered correctly, and so on and so on. But it's a really. Let's talk about DJing actually. I want to go into that because I saw something you posted recently actually where I think you were talking about some of the different stages and stuff. And you have got played from like Ushuaia
Yeah.
in Ibiza, you know, a huge stage
Yeah, that
to
was
play
fun.
on, absolutely massive. And haven't you have played, you said something about obviously not headlining Glastonbury, but you have DJ'd at Glastonbury.
Yeah, I
haven't you?
DJ'd at Glastonbury. Yeah, that was a really good. That was fun. And then last summer I was like 7 months pregnant, and I DJ'd at Boomtown to like
Huge festival.
5,000 people. Like I wasn't
Wow.
expecting anyone to be there, but I was on just before Badger, and it was good, great positioning in the lineup. So I was like, yeah, started with a few hundred people and ended with thousands of people. I was like, that was really fun.
That's brilliant. That must have been a buzz. And
Yeah,
you
it was
played,
really good.
haven't you played before Fatboy Slim as well?
Yeah, I've done some shows with Fatboy Slim at Drum Sheds. Yeah, and I
That's
played his Acid Ballroom stage at Drum Shed. That was amazing. That was like probably one of the best nights of my life playing there. I was in the little cage room.
Wicked.
Which is still 1,000 people, but
Yeah.
it's the smaller room in that.
I think
space.
I've seen some footage of that of you jumping around, absolutely going crazy behind the decks.
Yeah,
like
man,
full
we
of
had so
energy,
much fun. I
having
had
the best time.
Yeah, I set up this club night in London, Wonk it's called, kind of a artist collective club night, and we had every DJ from there like behind me in the booth, so it felt like a real great moment that night in Drum Sheds to have everyone around us. We're like, yeah, out of our little basement club and in like one
Wicked.
of the biggest clubs in
Did
the
that
UK.
feel like a turning point, or was there a set going back over the years where you were like, that felt like a real sort of turning point for you?
Yeah,
in your career?
that definitely was a turning point, the Drum Shed set, because I played so much of my own music in the set, and it was really one of those moments where you're like, because sometimes as an artist, when you're not getting feedback, because it's so like weird releasing music right in the digital world, you kind of release it on a Friday, you go, you never know if it's going to get supported or not.
Yeah,
like even if
totally.
you're like the biggest artist in the world, like things can you just release it into the ether and hope that it reaches people. But so when you get feedback from a crowd, like
that's real.
And it was like, okay, I'm playing my tunes and these are going down like really well. Like and it was like, okay, I'm not crazy,
Yeah.
because you just think, sometimes I think as a DJ, you bottle playing your own tunes.
Oh, 100%.
Especially if the stakes are high, right?
100%. And I think we're all different, aren't we, as creative people? But I've totally been there. Totally been there in the early days of Tour Room, and we used to have a residency at Ministry, and it took Mark, this was before USBs, it's physically put the CD in the CDJ and like forced me to play it, and I was like, and afterwards he sort of went, didn't kill it, did it? And I was like, yeah, it was all right. It's such a weird thing, isn't it?
It is.
I find the whole split of creativity to releasing quite strange, because the moment where I think most artists, producers, correct if I'm wrong, where you feel really good and safe and happy and fulfilled is in that real creative moment when things are building and growing and it's starting to connect.
Yeah.
And then you've got that bit of sort of pushing through the hard graft to finish stuff, and then just this whole releasing where it can be such a whirlwind of emotions, can't it? For any artist.
Yeah, because you can think you've like made the best track. You personally feel like you've made your best work, and then for whatever reason, just things out of your control, wasn't the right week to release. Just so many different things.
Just spotlight, just the music not getting. I think there's so much good music out there, which just doesn't get seen or heard, which is such a shame. Doesn't make it through. And like you say, it's probably being played in a club and absolutely smashing it.
Yeah.
And it's not still quite making it through.
And I think that's what was, back to the kind of that set for me was like, I'm in exactly the right place here. It was lucky because you play big gigs and you're not necessarily in the right spot on the line. You can like, I remember I played Amnesia before. I've opened Amnesia to like nobody. It was like massive, built up to be a massive thing in my brain. But actually, when I got there, I played to like 12 people and 2 of my best mates. And I was like, whatever.
And did you really like adjust your set for that as well?
Well,
did you sort of do your thing?
I kind of had to, because obviously you're opening it. It's like literally the bar staff are still polishing glasses, and I'm like. I've always found that very difficult as a DJ and a producer in today's industry, like getting booked for the warm-up slot, but obviously having quite a heavy, bassy sound. Because I'm like, as an artist, I feel like I should honor my sound as an artist. Yeah. But also it's like, you can't fucking smash out, massive bass lines.
I think this is a really tough thing to get, because I think people talk about it and you see pieces and articles and discussions saying like the art of the warm-up DJ's lost and stuff. But I think the scene, the industry was different over time as well.
100%. I mean, I think now it's very difficult to hear those that kind of comment from people, say that more people that have been in the industry a long time, because it's not the same. And now people are booked on lineups as artists. You're not an unknown you might be a great technical DJ, but you say nobody really knows you, and you might not be making your own music, even, that in the past. Whereas now everybody needs to be making their own music.
Yeah.
Really.
So how do you showcase that? If you're then doing a warm-up set and trying to do it perfect warm-up set, then everyone's going, well,
that doesn't sound like the stuff that's on Spotify. Yeah, exactly. It's really tricky balance to strike.
I think it is a really tricky balance. Like, and again, I'm sitting here probably a bit like one of these old school guys, but not sort of going, it should be like this. But from what I experienced back then, especially like sort of more localized talent, like from where I am, so Nick Fanciulli, Mark Knight sort of really cut their teeth locally in those clubs. And Nick, a lot of his support at that grassroots came from the localized crowd of him having a residency at a very credible club night and him playing before the big acts and managing to build the room. There was a element of his sound within that, but he was still managing to craft and be deep. But you don't see that as much now.
Yeah,
that's the thing. That's what's totally different. He was able to spend that time building that, but then still sort of go, here I am as an artist as well, and start to build.
Yeah, it's difficult. I think it's, we'll say there's less small clubs to play. There's less opportunities there for emerging DJs. That's a fact. There isn't as many venues. But then there's also this ever looming possibility that when you're putting stuff out online, there is the very viable possibility that something might go viral, and then suddenly you're locked into that sound, as well. And you don't get the time to kind of develop behind closed doors as much if you're putting out content online from day one. It's difficult to navigate to landscape. I don't have the answers for any artist, to be honest, but
it is tricky, isn't it? So when you're DJing, do you road test a lot of your stuff? I play generally like
I would say at this point, because I've released so many tracks, I would say my sets are generally probably 60-40, 60% my own tunes and 40 other, or maybe even more sometimes, 70-30, maybe 80-20. If I feel like I've got a hot crowd and they're going to like react well to it, I just basically play my own tunes. It totally depends on the set and the space.
And do you think that's helping you as well, like carve your artistic identity? This is me. This is who I am for a DJ.
I think I always come away from when I've played more of my own tunes in the set with more fans. I've made new fans usually when I play my own tracks. Than in a set where I play lots of other people's music.
It's the whole artistic experience then, I suppose, for someone, isn't it, on the dance floor to actually be connecting with your vibe. Yeah,
and you can still see people Shazamming things, and a lot of it's obviously probably unreleased, and it's like, okay, that's cool. I've made a fan there, So
it's so mad now that they talk about how that is. Yeah. It's just instant Shazamming, isn't it? Yeah. Now you just said like you've done lots of releases. Let's talk a bit about that, because you have been quite prolific in the releases. I think last year you pretty much released every single month.
It was exhausting. It was.
But I mean, kudos to you, because it takes a lot to maintain like consistency within music releases and keep a sound that you're trying to push through as an artist, and obviously put out your best work as as everyone's thinking as well. So you had some great labels that you've been on, like some really like Nervous as well.
I was on Nervous, done a couple of things on Nervous now. I've just dropped a single on Armada, which is great, and I've done.
So that was Bites. Is that Bites?
Yeah, that's just come out.
Now that came out. Was that timed with International Women's Day?
Kind of. Yeah, exactly.
Was there like real sort of thought process with that, or was it more just that's a good release?
Not so much. I think it was just it was a couple of weeks after International Women's Day, but like, I mean, I always get asked to do features or charts or whatever around International Women's Day. But I mean, I have conflicted feelings around International Women's Day, because I feel like, well, I don't know. Like one day of visibility. I feel like, I feel like sectioning the women off into their own little section in electronic music, especially, is kind of problematic. Do
you feel like it feels like a token?
Effort, well, kind of. It's just like, well, why do we have to have our own little section? Actually, everybody's a DJ. Being a DJ, I saw somebody talking about it the other day. There's nothing. It's not like athletics, where it's like, men physically are, in a different category to women. It's like it's DJing. Like
So if we're trying to actually be more inclusive,
it's like get rid of that Women's Day and actually just have everybody just kind of elevate the women.
It's almost like categories at award ceremonies, isn't it? Where which we're now seeing
disappear a little
start
bit,
to change and stuff now, rather than this segregated thing. Which makes sense if we're trying to be more inclusive. I can't help but just wave. I'm sorry, if there's a baby looking at me, I have to just stop and wave.
Somebody's awake.
Exclusive guest on the podcast.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about motherhood actually in a minute as well. With the music that you're making, do you tend to, well, I know we spoke a little bit about it, like creative when you're making music, but do you ever think about approaching specific labels strategically? Do you think about making music differently for labels, or do you sort of make music and then go, what would be a good home for this?
More like that. But I think when I was first starting out, I had specific labels that I would like, especially because I was wanting to get on more bookings on the event side. So I was looking for labels that had profile in the event space as well. So quite early on, I did an EP on DFTD with Defected. And that got me a few Defected gigs off the back of that, you know. So it's like, I kind of, you know, I had more of a lighter, houseier, like ish EP made, and I thought, and luckily, Wes fell in love with that and picked that up quite early on, so that was great, and then got me a few gigs out of that. So I've always I think that's really important for emerging artists in today's spaces, is to look for have your gold labels, but even the little labels, like, are they doing events? Have they got anything else that they can bring to the table for you? Because really, like, any of us can release our music digitally. You can distribute now, say, via SoundCloud, the hit of a button, you know, but it's like, what else are they going to bring to the table? It could be expertise, it could be in-house expertise, could be just like, you know, a photo shoot or something, getting yourself some new press photos out of it. But like, totally. What are they bringing? And for me, it's always been events.
Yeah, I think even for the smaller artists that are just starting out, I still say that to them. I'm like, don't jump at it just to think you can make that social media announcement.
Yeah.
Go, I've got a record. It's like, well, what's that going to do for you?
Yeah.
If they've come to you and actually said, I want your music, then you're in the right to go, well, okay, how's that going to work for me? Like, because I found it surprising when I talk to some new artists and they seem a bit like almost slightly worried when I say, ask questions like, who does their DJ promos? Does they do it in-house? Yeah. Can you see a past reaction sheet? Like, how are they going to get your music into the right hands? You've got to ask those questions.
Absolutely,
right?
yeah. Especially because I think a lot of the dance labels especially have some quite old school splits between, like, there's still some quite old school contracts flying around in dance music world, which wasn't really in indie world. You know, a lot of the deals that I would do as an independent kind of, more when I was doing pop music or indie music, it's always straight up 50-50, you know, unless you're on a major or whatever. Whereas in dance music, there's still a few labels that will go around and want everything, and you're like, okay, well, what you know, want everything forever, and like, unless you've got your head screwed on, you know, you might not push back on that, you know. You don't
it's actually understanding certain words like perpetuity and what they actually mean.
And it's mad that that's still getting, like, you know, that's still in the contract in 2026. I feel like in perpetuity deals should be like
forever. I know.
Finish, you know, like that shouldn't be a thing anymore.
So you've obviously, do you think that really helped? You know, you've had an experience of that through right from a younger age of being out in the industry, being in bands, solo artists. Did you have experiences back then with contracts and things where you felt, oh my God, or was it like, no, I want to know what this is all about?
Yeah, I mean, I've always had a healthy interest in the business side of it, because I think for me, I've always wanted to protect being able to do this for a living. You know?
Yeah, it's your job, right? This is what you've been doing, like you said,
exactly.
for a long
so
time.
I'm like, so it's always been like, okay, I've always had an healthy interest in the business side of things, because like, I still want to be able to continue doing this. And then alongside that, I've had an amazing manager for a long time, since basically day one, and we found each other. His name's Dan Garber. We found each other through gigs, actually. I played a gig at his night at 93 Feet East. This is like back in 2009.
Wow.
And that's how we met. And then he became my manager, and he's still my manager today. You know, we're like 15 years in.
That's amazing. There's not many, it's not often that you get that sort of
it's quite rare. Yeah, we were talking about it just recently when we realised it'd been 15 years. It's like, it's very rare that you stick with somebody for that long. But it's been...
it's important though, isn't it? Really, to have good partnerships. 100%. I think good people you can rely on, peer groups, just anything where you can actually, like, especially things like legalities, contracts that you can bounce things off, isn't it?
Absolutely. I feel like there's a lot more information out there available now as well for emerging artists. You know, don't feel like you need to have a manager from day one. That's just kind of how my path went. But you know, there's way more, like, I'm part of WhatsApp groups with producers and DJs, and people are throwing, you know, I've been asked to do this, you know, and it's like, just ask the stupid questions. Just, you know, don't be afraid to ask the stupid questions.
I think that's the one thing that I think people sometimes, as you're a new artist, the scene can look a bit scary, but actually when you start to make connections and meet people, you actually realise that everyone's really supportive.
Yeah.
You know, at certain levels, I think
absolutely,
definitely you can find a lot of help out there, can't you?
I think you're right,
Yeah. So have you ever had any like disastrous contracts or anything like that?
No, never had any disastrous ones. I mean, my first publishing deal that I ever signed wasn't fantastic. It was a very tiny amount of money, but it was enough money for me to give up what I was doing as a part-time job, which was nannying back at that time.
Oh, wow.
And it was enough money for me to basically live on in London for 6 months, not doing anything else. And that was the time that I needed to really kick things off. And I've never had another job since then. You know, so it was a tiny publishing advance and it was terrible terms, but whatever, like, you know, I needed to make the leap.
It was enough for you to make that leap.
Yeah, because I think that's important. It is hard to do other work and also find time to do the creative work. Like for me, like that was definitely what kickstarted my career, was just being like, phew, like the financial stress of having to work other jobs is like, it was taken off for a minute. Yeah, I know I only had 6 months to make it happen, but I was like, it was enough of a breather for me to just really launch myself into the studio and creatively and kick things off. And that was it, really.
On the studio side of things, like just to go back, 'cause it's stuck on my mind when you were saying about when you was a vocalist and you wanted to sort of get hands on and stuff. What did you go into? Like, what door was it you started learning on?
Always worked in Logic.
It's always been Logic.
Yeah, because I think it was, I mean, every studio I went into when I was getting put into songwriting sessions, this is about 2009-ish, you know, around that time, everybody was using Logic. Ableton wasn't really even a thing for the kind of music that I was making.
Totally.
You know, like some dance people would be in like Reason or whatever, but
so you felt quite familiar with that anyway from being in the studio, so it was that natural one to sort of go into.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was very aware that it was like, it wasn't rocket science, you know, it's just practice, you know. And I really, more than anything, not so much the technical skills, I just really needed to have the jargon, like the language. The language, babe, I know. I needed to learn the language to be able to and articulate my ideas properly to other producers.
Yeah, I hear you. And was you sort of self-taught? Did you go to college 100%, for that?
No, basically self-taught. I mean, I did study music at Goldsmiths, popular music it was, and but it was more, that was a course of more kind of concepts and kind of artistic development, but not actually technical producing lessons or anything like that. But I remember I spent my first student loan amount entirely on like a piece of, like, it was like, I don't know what website it was like musicproducer.com or something, you know, where they sold these like basic packages.
I did this.
You got the whole lot. You got the laptop. I had like a PC laptop with Cubase on it, Cubase SE. That actually, it was my first door actually. I lied earlier. Yeah, Cubase was my first. I was only on it briefly, but Cubase on this PC laptop with like 2 crappy monitors and like a MIDI keyboard, and that's it.
I did the same
I think
thing.
I spent 500 quid total, you know. But
I swear it was in the back pages of one of the music producer magazines. There were certain companies that did it. I had a tower and it had the built-in sound card,
perfect,
2 speakers, MIDI keyboard.
Yeah, was it music producer?
And I remember having to get like some sort of loan from family to get it. I remember doing that.
Well, that's what I spent my entire student loan on for that first term or whatever. Was like, just set myself up with that. But like that was the entry point I needed, and then after that it was, you know.
So before we continue, if you're watching this podcast, you're probably a dance music producer trying to break through. And that's exactly why we created the Tourum Academy Production Certificate course. It's an online program that certainly changed the game in house music education. Over 3 months, we write a track together to a professional level. You receive professional A&R feedback and technical feedback along the way every single week. And you'll join a really supportive, genuine community of like-minded producers as well. Our students have gone on to get signed to labels like Tourum, Armada, Spinning, Nervous, Solid Grooves. They've started DJing in boiler rooms and touring internationally. If that sounds like the next step for you, check out tourumacademy.com for more info. Has anyone ever come to you for production advice, to use utilising like Logic or just in general?
Yeah, more and more. I do get asked a lot to do like one-on-one production lessons. It's not really a massive. I'm happy to mentor people. You know, I'm always happy to pick up the
It's
phone
tough though, right? When you're being an artist yourself,
yeah,
and doing everything,
and especially when you've got a family.
Yeah.
Like my creative time now is so limited.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't, and it's not necessarily. You know, I have to sort of prioritize the things that are going to earn me money. Like, is it going to creatively enrich my life, or is it going to earn me a load of money? Hopefully it does both, and that's usually making new music for me.
Maybe something for the future.
Exactly. Yeah.
Could be something in the
Absolutely.
future. You mentioned Wonk earlier.
Yes.
When you were talking about your friends at that gig in Drumshed. So you founded that Wonk Club.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit more about that, and like what was the start of that? What was the intention of that as like a platform, like as a community?
So the intention of it was, I had found myself after having my son, my first kid, in 2021, and the pandemic. You know, we had the whole COVID.
Yeah.
I moved out of London during COVID. I was inevitably going to move out of London at some point anyway, but I'd done my 15 years, and it was like, London during COVID was a strange place for me, and I've grew up in the countryside. I knew at some point it would call me back, you know, and it did during the pandemic. And it was, so I was 33. I was like, you know, we were thinking of starting a family, and it was just like, okay. And we made that leap. We were leaped out and into Sussex, and that's where we still live down there. But I did find myself, as much as I had amazing collaborations, that's when I did the Chris Lake thing, and it's when I did the Ben Boma thing and the Odessa thing, had all these amazing collaborations. But it was quite an isolating time in general, but also just I was making music remotely. Like all those massive collaborations I've done as a vocalist have always been recorded remotely. You know, I've never been in the room with any of those people. I made those tracks. You know,
a lot of people don't think that, don't envisage it, do they, when they see collaborations?
It's just like, you send me a
it's
track,
the way it is.
I'll
It's
cut the vocal, I'll email it back, you know, and like, there was very little personal kind of relationships established on those tunes. And so then I found myself, it was around 2022, 23, you know, as much as my career was going really, really well, I just felt quite isolated in terms of peers, you know, because it's like you release this music digitally, you don't ever see anybody, even the labels I was working with, you know, you maybe have a Zoom call or two if you're lucky, but it's all on email. And I was like, wow, I just really don't feel like, other than my manager Dan, I wasn't really interacting with any other adults. You know, I was looking after my son in the daytime and doing family life, and then I didn't have any peers around me to kind of just check in with.
It can really affect your mindset, can't it?
Yeah, 100%.
Because it can actually be quite lonely if you think about producing
really
in front
lonely.
of that computer all the time.
Yeah. And then I was getting offers for big gigs, you know, so that's when I did the Amnesia thing. But then some of those gigs, you don't necessarily really, as a warm-up DJ, you're not necessarily the one that anyone wants to speak to in the room. Yeah, so that can be kind of a lonely experience as well sometimes. You know, it's different if you walk in and you're James Hype and it's like everybody wants to talk to you. But when there's the warm-up DJ that nobody knows, you know, you really have to work hard to start conversations with people. And I'm not the best person at doing that backstage generally. I like to just walk in and do my job really well, and then just like, you know, if anyone wants to talk to me, I'm more than happy to talk. I am terrible at approaching people first in those kind of situations. I don't know why.
I hear you. And that's the thing. Everyone's totally different. And sometimes in those environments, if you feel a bit like that, it can feel quite intimidating, can't it? Because you think everyone's really lively, chatting to everyone. And if you're not necessarily that sort of person, that whole backstage thing can feel quite intimidating.
Yeah, it's the weirdest, especially in Ibiza. I found the backstage culture the weirdest thing in the world. Like everyone just sits at their own little tables with their rider in front of them, and sometimes we all like get together, but like it can be quite a strange atmosphere at some of those big super clubs. So is that what when you were feeling like that, you were like, I need to start something? Yes, that was the question. Yeah, so that's why I started Wonk, because I was like, I want. My experience and first footsteps into clubbing experience in London was Corsica Studios. Every Friday, Saturday night, we'd had no idea who was playing. We just knew that Corsica, like, it programmed great stuff, and we were like, and it was close to us. You knew you'd have a good night. Yeah, we were in South London. We were in New Cross. It was only down the road. You know, it was always consistently a great night. And so we just go, and then like the Bussy building in Peckham, I was around in that area, you know, again, so like a real great era of and Plastic People, like clubbing, that you didn't have a clue who was playing. You just turned up knowing that you probably have a good time. And so I was seeking to offer that experience for fans or people that just wanted, as an antidote to a lot of these massive, shiny super club gigs that we were all kind of getting booked on. You know, it's just such a different landscape now. Yeah. So even if you're you could be on your first or second release. If it goes really well, suddenly you're opening for a Defected thing or a he, she, they thing, or like, the stakes are quite high at those massive gigs in these massive spaces. And I was like, I want to offer DJs, but also punters, like the really back to basics experience. Like there's no frills. It's a free night. Like, it's free entry.
Less pressure.
Yeah, man, less pressure. And I found that a lot of the artists and DJs, we have so many people want to play our nights because it is less pressure. Yeah. And they feel like they can experiment more. And they can play something that's half finished and test a mix.
See, I do feel that is something that feels like what's missing a bit from the old school scene. From being around it in that time, especially when I was first playing in just bars, basements, pubs, clubs, and let's just bring music and have a good time. Yep. And it's nice to see some more of that coming back, I think, when people are doing things like this.
I think it's important, man. You need to be able to have a safe space where you can make mistakes as well, and so we started.
So you felt like that was something that was missing?
For me personally as well, because you're suddenly getting played on massive gigs, and also maybe the gaps between gigs are quite bit long. You might have only one gig every 3 weeks or a month even, but it's like an Amnesia to an Ushuaia. It's like huge stages where you feel like I can't really test this stuff. So I was like, no, I want to be able to do something. So we did it once a month in a club called The Social in the centre of town. They gave it a space for free. We just packed it full of mates, and it's really grown into an amazing community. And then we started kind of these creator clinics, is what we call them, which was direct feedback with A&Rs from different labels. So we had a creator clinic with Ninja Tune A&R, Defected A&R, and Good Company, and we were all just there.
That's wicked.
Yeah, so.
That's so nice. So you're giving back as well. It's good. It's nice.
Yeah, I think it's important, man, because releasing music in 2026 can be kind of isolating and lonely.
Yeah,
and it's
100%.
Like we need peers. Yeah,
you can literally you could not leave a room.
Yeah,
you could physically make music, release it, and just be totally isolated. And it is good. It's important, isn't it? To get out and spread that community. And let's talk about the other things that I think people feel it's necessity and very important. Something I think you're very good at, which is in the whole sort of social media side of things, the content side of things. It's a huge part of being a modern artist, right? And it's something artists have to do it quite relentlessly. Yeah, it's something you've got to be on all the time. Yeah, and like I said, you have a very good way of keeping that going.
Yeah.
Do you feel pressure from it? Do you sometimes feel like tough, like you're burning out from doing that and keeping that going?
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody that doesn't find it tiring is fibbing. I think the demands of the amount of content you have to make as an artist online it's really exhausting. So that's why you really have to find a way of making it easy for yourself and enjoyable. And once I'd figured that out, it was like, fine. I mean, sometimes you say I don't want to film every single moment of my day, but like I can make reels really quick, and I just come up, I think of some hook, and it's like, it really doesn't matter what the video is behind it necessarily. The music hopefully does the talking, and the hook kind of keeps people's attention for a few seconds. So once I figured out how to make it easy for myself and enjoyable, I was away really. And like I've said this before on my Instagram, like a lot of, for me personally, my access into being good at social media or my being more comfortable with it was relearning what my face looked like without makeup on. Like, it sounds insane. No. And probably as a man, you never even necessarily considered it. But as a woman on social media, you think, oh God, I need to do a video, but I've got like 20 minutes and I'm nowhere near camera ready. You're like, it can really put you off. Yeah, productively
I've
making
never thought
anything.
of it like that. As that added pressure. That's
and I just had to learn and love. Well, maybe not love, but like learn to accept what my face looked like without it being 100% always on, And once I did that, I was like, it's easy, man. I can make a reel over breakfast while I'm making a coffee and I've got a baby in one arm.
Once you actually did it and like put some stuff out there and just went, this is me, this is who I am. Did you feel like a sort of weight off your shoulders, like 100%. a bit freer? Like, I can do this. Yeah. I can do this actually.
I become way more comfortable and just like, and I think also becoming a parent unlocked a new level of self-acceptance for me, because it's like you have so much less time for yourself.
Yeah, totally.
I'm lucky if I get 20 minutes to myself after having a shower in the morning to be able to say put an outfit together and put my face on. Like, it ain't happening a lot of the time. So you do just have to find a workaround. And I mean, having small kids is incredible, but so humbling. Like, it's like I think it's really important.
I think doing that as well, I think you're doing more than you realise to actually inspire other people and say, look, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's all right to be yourself. Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? You don't have to actually have this perfect version of yourself all the
No,
time.
because I don't think it's sustainable with
It
the
isn't,
amount
you're
that
right.
you're expected to be visible. Like very different if you have structures around you that say you could like videographers, you've got makeup artists, you've got a glam team, you know, it's like, but so many people aren't operating on that level.
Who has that? Who
no,
has
I
that?
mean,
Do you know
very
what I
few
mean?
people, right?
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? But I think a lot of new artists feel that pressure to almost have that in the way they can.
Yeah,
like
but
themselves.
Yeah,
But you're
it's
right,
not
it's not
realistic.
sustainable.
Not with, say, you can do a reel once a week at that, but you need to be
Yeah.
doing like, some people are putting up 3 reels a day, realistically, you know, like more. You need to be online a lot, and so you just have to find a way of making it comfortable for yourself.
So just and just maybe just drop the pressure, drop the stand,
Yeah,
not the
100%.
standards, but just what you're putting
Yeah,
in your
become
own
more
mind.
comfortable with yourself. Yeah, exactly.
I think that's a really important message, saying that. And I think for you as well, once you find like a style, like a way of actually going, right, this is me, how I present something.
Yeah.
And you can just kind of keep
exactly.
remixing it, can't you?
Yeah,
as
absolutely,
well.
yeah.
You don't have to sort of break the mold.
No,
all the
100%. I mean,
time.
every day I'm in my studio. If I'm not playing a gig, I'm in my studio, and you'll see on my Instagram, I basically got this like flexi arm thing, and I just shove my phone there, and it's all content from my studio, usually from that very same angle, and it just it just goes down really well. People get so many comments every time we do something. Oh, it's my favorite TV show's on. You know, it's like people recognize that angle and they're like, oh, great, Laura's on again. You know,
so consistency again.
Yeah.
Is something that's really, really important. Yeah. Let's talk about motherhood and the music industry a bit, because I know we keep touching on it, but you know, as I said to you at the start, I think it's incredible. You've got your 5-month-old daughter here today, you know, whilst we're doing this, whilst we're recording this. That balance, you know, do you find that incredibly tough, like of having this balance between creative time, touring, you know, the social media, and raising a family?
Yeah, I mean, I think I have gotten good at kind of compartmentalizing the different elements of that, but also caring less across the board generally. You know, my family is obviously always priority number one, their well-being and their happiness, and then alongside that, if I get a bit of time to make a new tune, great. You know, if I get booked to go and do that show and we can somehow all make it as a family, or if it means I'm not away for too long, you know, I can do 24 hours away. I haven't done that yet with my daughter, but certainly my son was at an age where we were getting there. I could go away and do a gig in Ibiza and come back. And it was, we didn't even realize I'd gone a lot of the time, you know, so we were kind of getting there. But it's, people are like, oh, you know, how do you balance it? You know, you don't. It's the reality. Yes, you don't balance it. You just have to find.
Get through.
Yeah, you get through and you find a way to make it work. I think I'm especially fortunate that I have obviously a very long-standing relationship with my manager, who is also a parent. And so he totally understands.
He's out there right now.
Yeah, I mean, he's out there right now with my daughter. So he's probably having a really tough time. He's just woken up from a nap. So he's managing. Exactly, literally managing. But, and then my husband also, he also works in music, but he works more in bands, you know, so he's a record producer as well, but he works with bands like Idols and like saying like traditional kind of like bands. And so he's freelance also. So like there's a deep understanding.
There's a real partnership, isn't there?
Yeah, because it's like sometimes he has a project that comes in that he's like, this is terrible, but I've got to go to, you know, a studio in France for 3 weeks and it's going to take me away. And I'm like, but then you, as a freelance person myself, I'm like, that's an opportunity you have to take, because it's going to lead on to something much bigger. You know, long term, it's going to be much better for us all if you take that opportunity. And he's always the same for me when things come up. So I think that's helped. I don't know if I would be married at all if I had a husband that was in a 9-to-5 job, because this job is so weird.
Yeah, totally. I hear that. It's mad. Creative people do often sort of attract each other, don't they?
Yeah.
In creative times. Yeah. I think what's really interesting as well is what you said before and just then, like effectively how like having less time, you know, having a family sort of changed your relationship with music a little bit, but not in a way that you don't care as much, but actually it sounds to me like it's sort of freed your mind a little bit, because you're still doing what you're doing. You're still writing great music. You're still, you know, getting consistent releases out. You're still DJing, but actually maybe that, I don't know what the word is to say, but it's that it's not that you care less, but you're actually worrying less. And having a bit more freedom. That it's like, well, I've only got that amount of time.
Exactly, yeah.
I've got to let that go. Whereas you might have spent losing a few hours looking for that one snare, you know, the classic joke. Totally. But actually now it's like, Just press
totally
on.
streamlined my process. Can you see you picking her up on the back of your audio? She might have to come and join the. Oh, babe.
Oh.
I know. That's probably the longest we've ever been apart.
Oh, bless.
Yeah, so this is how you balance motherhood.
This is how you balance it, right here.
You don't, yeah.
Juggling, doing a podcast.
Yeah, exactly, with a 5-month-old.
She's so cute.
What you got to do is just figure out ways to make it work. Like, I've had some bookings come in over the summer, and we're like, how are we going to do that? Are we all going to go as a family? Is it affordable? Is it, you just got to figure it out.
Yeah, totally.
And if you're in a fortunate position to have good team around you that understand the situation.
You've got an amazing manager.
Amazing
helping
manager.
you right there, literally rock the baby and balance things.
And my agent's just had a baby as well. Like everybody's kind of in the same boat.
Sort of in full
so
understanding
like they
of
kind
it.
of understand,
Hello.
Yes.
Hello, you.
Got a very demanding dictator ruling my life right now. Yes, I have.
Have you had an influence in some of Mummy's recent music?
Oh, certainly heard a lot of my music. Oh my goodness, that new one that I just put out, Bites. I swear, every time I put it on, she's laughing away. But I'm like, because I made it when you were being made, so you probably heard it 50 million times.
Oh, bless.
Yeah.
Bless. So what's next? What's next for Laura?
What's next? I mean, I've just dropped that release on Armada, and then we've got a release coming out with on Fatboy Slim's Southern Fried at the end of the summer.
Awesome.
With Bag Raiders, who are an Australian duo. And so we're going to do some shows together and going to do some Fatboy Slim shows. I'm going to play the Dreamland gig at Margate at the end of the summer. And then there's some remixes, a really big remix of a very iconic track that's supposedly still coming out. I can't say much more about that, but it's safe to say it was one of the biggest kind of trance crossovers.
Because obviously, Finally, your version of Finally was a huge
that was fun
of your career.
Yeah,
right?
that was fun, really fun. That was the first time I ever had anything go viral on Instagram, I think, and it was that was an experience in itself. Suddenly you're launched into a world of virality where you're like, it's kind of exciting, but at the same time, invites
do you enjoy
a lot
doing the remixes like that? Do you enjoy?
Yeah, I love them. I mean, I made that remix for my live set, and I do that quite a lot. I'll just make a bootleg version of something I love. I think it's a really good way of producers being able to show their different influences to their audiences, and then combine that with your own sound as a producer. Like, I love so many of my influences growing up were like, I was like listening to that kind of golden era of Timbaland, so it's like Justin Timberlake and Beyonce, Destiny's Child and TLC and like all those like really fun vocals to have a play around with and like recontextualize them into kind of a house or a bass kind of context. So
you've seen it as like a sort of creative outlet of having fun and stuff for the DJ sets, and obviously that Finally one then, like you said, kind of you had a viral moment with that.
And I've always loved that vocal. I mean, it's just such a fun vocal as a vocalist to sing along to. You have certain tracks that you love like to sing out loud. I mean, everybody does in their kitchen or whatever, but especially as a vocalist, there's certain tracks that you're like, oh man, that always feels good to sing that one out loud.
Totally.
And that was one of those. And it was, I guess, my way of, as a DJ, I'm not a DJ that's going to be on the mic narrating my set as we go, but so I find those moments, making those edits is a way for me to share my influences kind of without having to say any words. It's like it's kind of education for them and an invitation into my artistic world and my journey and stuff that I like.
That's a really nice outlook and perspective on it, on that sort of remix culture in general. I'm excited to hear what the next one is.
Oh yeah,
you're desperate to speak.
I know,
Quinn. Desperate to chat.
Oh, you got a lot to say and probably to eat too. She's like, why haven't you fed me yet? I know, babe.
I was wondering if you guys actually heard my stomach just now with the loudest growl ever with the mic like that.
I know. Star of the show. What are you doing in here? Yeah.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Oh, I'm really excited to hear what's coming next then. You've got a busy summer ahead as well.
Busy summer ahead, yeah. I got a few gigs spotted around, but like mostly I'm going to be, teaching this one to crawl, walk and, eat next and talk. So that's probably, what I'm going to be doing for the rest of my year.
While still being creative in the studio.
While still putting out tunes.
On the road touring.
Exactly, yeah.
I have huge admiration and respect for being a parent, especially with a young one.
I know. What's
Nothing
it
like a real life moment right here.
I know.
Oh, I love it. Well, thank you so much for joining us.
Absolute pleasure. Sorry we have had a little intruder.
I absolutely love the special guest. You've been the star of the show here today, Quinn. It's been really nice chatting to you and just just hearing your journey, hearing your story, I think people will find that quite inspiring, especially those different stages and reinventing yourself and just being consistent with that work ethic. And here we are, look.
Here we go.
With real proof right here.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been an absolute pleasure.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you, Quinn.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Oh, okay.